What's up, nerds? We are back with another video talking about sorcery cards that either have the same name, the same ability, or similar art. If you haven't seen the other videos talking about these cards, you should go check them out. This shit is bananas, and there ain't no holler back girl, so let's get into it. This one was unexpected. Apprentice Wizard is in both games. For me, Sorcery is the first time I encountered the card, and it is a highly used card in the game. 3 mana allows you to draw a card, and with it being a spellcaster, you can use it to cast certain spells from its position. Seeing the same name in Magic took me by surprise, and the effect on the card, I have to say, is quite strong. Being able to generate the mana you need for a counterspell is a bit wild to say the least. Not to mention, it could help you get out of things with a larger mana cost than you could cover. Both cards are great, but I think Magic strikes a bit more fear into me. Ball Lightning is up next, and it has an interesting difference between the two. Magic's card is a creature with trample and charge. At 3 mana, it's a 6/1 that dies at the end of the turn. 6 is a huge amount of surprise damage, and with it only being 3 damage, you could get it out turn 3, maybe take care of an enemy creature, and still do damage to the face. In Sorcery's case, it is one of the higher damage spells with the possibility of dealing 7 damage. You can have it bounce between creatures on a single space, or you can hit 3 targets that are lined up with each other. I think the most badass turnout for this card would be using the enemy minions to your advantage and landing a death blow on the enemy avatar. It would be pretty sick and shocking to the other player. Also, I don't know if you guys have ever played League of Legends, but Vel'Koz's Q almost works exactly the same, and that's one of my favorite champions back in the day. I love that ability, so it's pretty cool to see it in a card game. Getting chilly, we have Blizzard. Both games' versions of this card are pretty cheap, and to me are both pretty mid as well. Sorcery's Blizzard is a stall card or can be used to run a card past defending units, taking up 4 squares on the grid, but only lasting a single turn unless your avatar is in serious danger or using a creature with extra movement. There isn't too much I see this card being used for. Magic's Blizzard just has too many checks and only stops flying creatures from untapping, sucking up 2 mana every turn, and needs you playing certain lands to even function. Both cards try to keep the opponent from inflicting damage, but both are so situational I'd rather lightning bolt my foe. Browse is the next card we're going to look at. Both arts are basically the same, a figure and papers flying everywhere. The downside of the Sorcery's Browse is that it has a high threshold, and that if you find multiple cards that you need, you only get to pick one and the rest gotta go to the bottom. Magic's card is a whole different can of worms. It's an enchantment, meaning you can use it multiple times for the cost of 4 mana. Only allow you to look at the top 5 instead of 7, and letting you keep one as before, but instead of putting them to the bottom of the deck, you have to exile them from the game. This can be a bad thing, but if you're only digging for one specific card that will get you to where you need to be, this card can be very useful, and with enough mana you could do it twice a turn. With this one, we get to see one of the things that makes Sorcery badass and unique, and that's how different these cards play from each other, and that one is Cone of Flame. Taking advantage of the grid style, the card sends out a far more satisfying, Cone of Flame, engulfing up to 9 spaces. Of course, point blank, dealing the most damage, and tapering off as the spell travels, while on the other hand, Magic kind of simulates the tapering off by offering you to deal the most damage to your third choice. And I feel the art really sells this choice of the wording, otherwise it wouldn't really make much sense for the ordering of damage. This is a good way to show the enjoyable perspective of how cards are created and can be applied in Sorcery. I feel this next card seems pretty standard to have. If something exists in a game, there needs to be a way to counter it, whatever that might be. Both games have the card Disenchant, both functioning exactly the same way, with the exception that Sorcery's version of the card takes the grid into account. The only other difference is that the counters are mentioned opposite of each other on the text of the cards. Next, we have the spell that both games share the same color, and that would be Disintegrate. In Sorcery, this is one of the only cards that just flat out takes the life of a minion. It's not all that expensive either, and it will also get rid of anything the minion would be carrying, and the only downside is that it has to be nearby, and you can only have 2 in the deck. The Magic version is like a dream, 1 red mana and X, so you can just pump as much mana as you've got into one straight up damage spell, and it can target the enemy player. I think both cards live up to the namesake if you ask me. A 2 fluent favorite we have Grey Wolves and Rat Colony. Both cards allow you to have any number of copies of itself in the deck and receive a buff from them being on the battlefield together. There are some pretty fun cards that makes these cards a lot stronger than what they might seem at first, like using Sylvan Splendor and Hamlet together. And I'll just leave you with that. We have a strategy that's pretty commonly used in Sorcery, and that being the card Roots of Yggdrasil. This card destroys everything, plain and simple. In Magic, there's a card called Armageddon that destroys all lands, and I remember reading this card when I was new to Magic and thinking, wow, that's pretty busted. Now when I play Sorcery and I see Roots enter the field, I'm like, I have to start stockpiling sites in my hand just to start rebuilding, because you know it's inevitable. You know it's going to come. I feel like it's pretty natural of an idea for a card to reset the game, so it being in both games makes pretty sense. What is wrong with my brain? It makes sense. A pretty vanilla pair here. Both games have a Pikeman. Both are designed pretty differently, though. Magic gets to have First Strike at all times, but is a little guy costing 2 mana for 1/1. And Sorcery has a 3 cost with 3 stats and only gets First Strike while attacking. The card makes sense flavor-wise, and it's probably better this way for balance. Not many creatures have First Strike in Alpha and Beta, and I feel like the Pikeman might have run rampant if it had First Strike all the time. These next two similar cards are Pixies. Sling Pixies and Argothian Pixies. Argothian. I'm pretty sure that's how you pronounce that. Don't kill me. Sling Pixies can't take damage from things over 4, and Argothian won't take damage from artifact creatures. In other media and in old stories, Pixies tend to be immune to certain magics and are highly dexterous, either using their wings to maneuver or being able to teleport, which would explain why they have such evasive type effects in both games. This next part of the video is just a few MTG cards that I've never seen before or I was reminded of that are pretty strong from back in the day, and I'd just like to give a little talk about them. This next card is one everyone should probably know about, and that's Blood Moon. All non-basic lands are now basic mountains. In a world where you're not playing red at all, you're just kind of fucked until you replay your mana, right? Like, sure, you can tap it for colorless, and there's a slight way around it, but this is definitely a card that's cheap enough or been reprinted enough to just like earn its spot in Magic history, right? Like, this card is correct, and I'm sure it pissed a lot of people off in its time. Now onto the part where I discovered a few Magic cards that I have never seen before, starting with Anarchy. This card is kind of ass if you're not playing against white, but if you are playing against white, sheesh, you probably just win the game. If you draw it, you just fucking annihilate them and then have your way. Like, seriously, what is this card? Next one is just yet another red card that makes you wonder what the fuck was going on. Return all islands to their owner's hands. Each player sacrifices a plain or a white permanent for each white permanent he or she controls. What is up with red just annihilating everything on the fucking board? I mean, the artwork's cool and it is 5 mana, and back then, like, getting to 5 was nutty and shit, but like, brother, now this card fucks both blue and white, and like, what are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to do? And I mean, I guess, what is it? Force of Will came out at the same time. Is it Force of Will? You guys know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. You know what I'm talking about. Magic's gets to have First Strike and all time. Not to mention, it could help you get out of things with larger mana cost. Not to mention, it could help you get out of things. God damn it. Fuck! Okay. Lightning. God damn it. Fuck! Anyway. Ball. Fuck. In old media and in old stories, in old